Meet Lambo. So I decided I wanted to do a video series with Lambo and I here. He is a 4-year-old Mustang. Clean this. Sorry. He is a 4-year-old Mustang. Caught here not too far from Vernal, where I'm from. Guy that built our fences. Caught him like 2 years ago when he was 2, so he's 4 now. Hasn't had time to do anything with him, but I mentioned to him that I wanted to get a Mustang, and here he is. So I've got to start him. Today is the 8th day since I got him, and been having enough fun with him that I thought some of you might like the journey. Taken what is essentially barely touched. I think he had a halter on him a couple times, but that's basically it. And that was just sporadically. And so he's gone from pretty Mustangy and crazy a week ago to pretty comfortable with me. So I wanted to take you kind of on the journey here as we get him ready for shed hunts and hunting and all the other adventures that I go on, and get him ready to be a good horse. So little does Lambo know, he's got an appointment in 30 minutes to have an adjustment made. He is currently a stallion, and I have no need for a stallion, and so he is going to be going to the vet. While they've got him sedated for that, we're going to get his hooves trimmed, even though I had scheduled that when I first got him and figured it would probably take me several weeks to get him to where I could get close to his feet and have a farrier work on him. But as you'll see here in a minute in some of the videos, I probably in another week could have him standing for the farrier if we even spent a little bit of time on it. Can already pick up his 4 feet. So that's what his adventure is today. So let me start you back with some video from, I didn't get any video the day that I went and looked at him the first time. We were traveling and I only had just a few minutes, and he was everything you'd think a wild Mustang would be. And then the next day I went to pick him up because I could see already that I liked him, liked the way he looked and liked the way he moved. And so the next day is the first video I got, not when I first got in there, but after I'd spent about 5 minutes in the round pen with him. And I was amazed at how quickly I started videoing, because I was amazed at how quickly he was calming down and starting to trust me. And I could tell that he wanted to trust me. He wanted to be able to be relaxed around me, and as long as I gave him the chance, he was very willing. So you're going to see him as I halter him for the first time. He'd been haltered a couple times before that, but it'll be the first time I halter him, and the first time, as far as I know, that he's been in a trailer since he was loaded in when he was caught off the range. That in itself is a miracle. If you watch this footage here, it's almost unbelievable that was, you know, a horse that was pretty crazy a few minutes before and calmed right down and was able to trust me enough to calmly walk in that trailer, and not only walk in but stay there, stay put, and traveled well. So anyway, that's the start of the journey. We'll back up now and catch up on some of the videos of the training he's had in the last week. 8 days. So this will be the second time in the round pen with him. The day I went and picked him up, I'd spent maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes in there. Hard to say because time goes by quick when you're just doing stuff like this, but he was getting good enough that I knew I'd be able to get a halter on him pretty quick. So here I'm just kind of working him. I've been sending him around the round pen. You notice right there I give him a little bit of pressure with the halter, because anytime that horse turns disrespectfully, meaning with his backside toward me, I want to give him just a little bit of pressure. And it doesn't take very many times of just doing that. You'll notice that I do that throughout this whole process. When he turns disrespectfully, I just give a little crack of pressure right there, and then he pretty quickly realizes that when he turns with his nose toward me, that none of that disappears and doesn't happen, so he chooses to do that. But here I'm using his, you'll notice on horses they basically have a gas pedal, a brake, and a neutral. The neutral is basically his front shoulder. When I get forward of that, I'm holding him or slowing him down. When I'm even with it, we're neutral. And when I'm behind it, I'm driving him or making him go faster. So right here, I've stopped him. And this is the first time to be able to get in there close enough to touch him. And then I immediately back off. He's let me touch him. Now I back that pressure off. That's his reward. See, you were worried about me touching you, and I just touched you, and it wasn't bad, and then you actually got a break. So now I'm going to go back in. And here he is. So I just run him past the trailer once, because a lot of horses are terrified of trailers. And I wanted to see how he'd react, and he didn't really seem bothered by the trailer at all. So he's not really broke to lead yet, but he quickly, right there, you see that he gives to pressure. And if you'll watch the lead rope there between him and me, it's slack right here. So I'm just letting him check the trailer out. I want to see how he's going to react. And then I just give him a little bump on the lead rope, and you see him start to move forward. He gives me that front foot. I wait. Now the rope is slack. I bump, and he gets the next leg up, and then one more bump, and all 4 feet are in. Now I'm a little bit worried in there because I don't know if he's going to explode. A lot of horses, they'll get in there and they'll panic, and they'll spin around or back out, but he didn't. He stayed in there very calmly. And then here is his first meeting with the other horses, Mankus and Q there. He is still a stallion, like I'd said, so I wasn't going to put them together yet, but actually, if you notice, both of them, because they're on their home turf, they are both being more aggressive than he is. He's pretty laid back right here, not being aggressive toward them at all, wanting to kind of at least come see them, but the two of them are trying to be a little bit scarier than he is. But overall, that's a pretty good meeting. Here he is for the first time in the round pen at my place. Just kind of teaching him to go, that I can move his feet, that I can change his direction. Right here you're going to see I'm trying to give him the opportunity to turn his nose toward me and turn around, but he doesn't want to give me his right eye. That was one of his weaknesses to start with, is he did not like to look at me out of the right eye. Here's the next day after he's had a few minutes, so I'm giving him the opportunity to turn without putting his behind toward me, and he does. And I'm just using a flag here to give him a little bit of pressure. I want to move him out, establish that I can move his feet, I can move him to the right, I can move him to the left. And he tended to want to keep his left eye on me, not his right. Right here, he would, once I got him turned, he would want to turn back himself.
We couldn't do that yesterday.
Me in his left eye.
We couldn't turn respectfully
yesterday. That's almost completely gone away now. He doesn't seem to bother. But you notice all those turns right there were his nose toward me and not his backside. That was a big improvement.
Good boy.
And allowing me to approach him. I'm kind of waiting for him to say it's okay. And he kind of dips his nose toward me just a little bit, so then I
good boy.
Say, okay, thank you.
Good boy. He wants to be good.
Give him a little bit of
he wants to be good.
Attention. I'm just starting. I've been, over the last couple of days, doing a lot of this, just touching him everywhere. I want to desensitize him, get him used to being touched everywhere. I don't want him to overreact if he gets touches. Had been spending about 2 days there trying to get down his legs. You couldn't touch his legs the day before. Notice how worried he is. His head's up. His ears are perked on me. His eyes are a little bit worried. Here is his first look at a saddle blanket. He handled it really well. I just did approach and retreat. When he stood there and looked at it or put his nose on it, I would back it away from him, give him a reward of taking the pressure off. So I approach him, then I retreat. And then I finally put him on him. He wears it for a second. I pull it back off to retreat. I do it from both sides. Now he's wearing it. A little bit of a risk there, because if he had taken it off, that thing would have fallen off and probably would have spooked him. But he did good. Now I pull it off and go work him from the other side with the same thing. These are all just little snippets of some of the lessons, morning and night, when I could, and in the evenings. Like you can tell, it's kind of getting dark here. We did a lot of this A lot of just throwing that rope. I want that rope to touch him everywhere and have him okay with it. Over his back, over his butt, over his front legs, over his back legs. And then after that, we start working on getting him to yield his head to me. I want him to tip that nose toward me. And I also start getting him ready. I've found that this is probably the best way to make sure that when you go to get on a horse, it doesn't run away as soon as you get your foot in the stirrup. Because if he can't stand still while you're jumping next to him, he's not going to stand still while you're swinging into the saddle. So that's the way I get him prepared for that. I want him prepared and ready to stand still when I go to get on him. And then I'll even start kind of putting weight on him to see how he reacts. It's kind of a lower risk way of me putting my weight on him, because if he goes out, it's just going to push me to the side, or I'm going to move to the side. What I'm also doing is showing him my right hand over there in his right eye, so he gets used to seeing me from both sides. When I'm up in the saddle, he can see me alternately from the left and right eye as he moves his head around, or if I have my arms out, I need to get him used to that. That's scary for a horse, to have somebody behind them, above them, and being able to see them out of the both their eyes. You'll notice that most of these videos show me working him from the left side. I do just as much on the right hand side, but I didn't tend to want to bore you with seeing the same thing done on the opposite side as I'd done on the left side. Just because he's good with it on the left side doesn't mean he's going to be even remotely okay with it on the right hand side, but you'll notice he's already pretty much equal now, left and right side. There I kind of put some weight on him. It's kind of tricky there, because if I get up there, I want him to hold still. I don't want him to learn that if he moves, that will get me off, that the pressure goes away if he moves. I want him to learn that standing still is the way for the pressure to go away. Here's the next day, doing a little bit more. I'm trying to do it just long enough that he doesn't move or try to run out. And here, he was thinking about it, but he stayed. I didn't get up high enough that I could have hung there any longer anyway, but and there you go. He does real well about not being scared and bolting out. See him licking and chewing there. That's an indication that he's relaxing. I like my horses to be able to be saddled and mounted from both sides. So you'll see me doing both from both sides. Now here I got a loading block so that I could get up a little bit higher and not have to do it quite so violently as jumping up on him. I don't know if you just noticed that right now. Back up, he nipped at me right there, which is the first time he had tried to actually bite or nip. He used that as, he's trying different stuff to see what can get him out of work, and he nipped at me, so I kind of just made him uncomfortable for a minute. Nope, that's not good enough. You're gonna have to not do that. And you'll notice right here, I put him back in the same situation. He turns his head around, but he does not try to nip me again, and he hasn't since then. So I want him to get used to me being up at a higher elevation. Very uncomfortable for a horse, especially a wild horse. Something coming in from above is never a good thing. The higher I get, the more nervous it makes him, but he needs to be okay with that eventually. And he needs to be okay with being touched all over the place while I'm up there, because I don't want, if I've got something in my hands or a rope or something that brushes him, I don't want him to freak out. Now we're coming back to the left side. I mean, getting him used to that thing's banging around and making some noise around his feet. I'm trying to test and see what is his threshold, what's going to send him out, what's going to make him scared. You notice he has a real hard time. See how high his head is? He has a real hard time relaxing when I'm up this high. But overall, he's doing exceptionally well at holding still and tolerating stuff that he's not really comfortable with. Now, at this point, he's tolerating it. He's not accepting it, really. First time he gets to look at a saddle. Now, this is the same saddle blanket. We'd worked with it 2 or 3 days in a row, so the saddle blanket was nothing really new,
Okay.
although you can see it brings his
I'll
head up.
wear
He's
that if you
not entirely certain what's about to happen. He's, as far as I know, he's never
force me
seen a
to.
saddle before. So I let him look
Okay, I
at it,
might wear
let him
that
sniff it.
too.
No reaction, really. He's not overly scared of it. So I let it, just set it gently up on his back.
Not
I don't
entirely
do
certain
anything
where
kind
this
of in a
is headed.
sneaky fashion, but I don't want it to be
So
jarring or
far.
sudden or scare him at this point. I want this to go well. I want the first time a saddle goes on his
I'm
back
okay.
to be very calm and not give him any reason. Because right now, if he was to bolt, that saddle would go off him and scare him, and it'd be a setback for him. I had not set it up for his size. It's set up for a fat old Mancus, so I had to do some adjusting to the cinch and that stuff right here, both the front and the back cinch. I had taken the pulling straps off of the saddle because I didn't want to have that much hardware swinging around on it. So I had prepped him for this, both by touching his underside quite a bit and also by putting a rope. When I would throw that rope around him, I would swing it under his belly, catch it, and then I would kind of draw it tight around his chest there in that cinch area. And I had done that 3 or 4 times for different sessions to get him used to some pressure there. That will scare a horse. That pinching sensation on his chest is going to scare him if he's not used to it. So you can see he's kind of going, what's going on here? This is the first time he's had a cinch tightened on him. So I'm just going slow. I want to make sure I get it on there, not tight yet, but tight enough that if he was to blow out, that saddle doesn't end up underneath his legs or falling off or anything like that. I want it in one motion. I want to get it tight enough that it's not going to come off. But we got the front cinch done. Now the back cinch. Again, I don't want that thing loose and floppy, but I want it just barely snug, just making contact so he can get used to it. Saddle's down, and he is wearing a saddle for the first time. Again, you can tell he's just tolerating this because he's trying to be good, but he's not okay with it yet. He's not real calm in any way. Now, the first time he moves with that saddle on him, that's why I take the lead rope off. I don't want him to step on the lead rope and make it worse. But the first time he moves is when he's likely to feel that pressure of the cinch, and he's likely to try and do anything in his power. To him, he doesn't know that's not a bobcat that just jumped on him, squeezing him. You know, a lot of predators, lions and bobcats and stuff, can come in from above, and that pressure is around him, and how he feels it. But he does good until right here. He's like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good. I got to get it off, and what's my best option? It's instinctive for him to try and get that thing off of his back. What I want is as quickly as possible. The reason why I'm waving that flag is I want him to, again, that's been from the beginning his signal that what you're doing is not right. There's the pressure. As soon as you quit doing what you're doing that's wrong, the pressure goes away and your life is much better. So he pretty quickly, within about 15 or 20 seconds, realizes that bucking doesn't get him off the pressure. So this right here is actually the next day. And I'm working on trying to get his head to come around, to yield his head to me, because eventually I need to be able to do that from the saddle. He's not real good at it, but he's getting better. He doesn't fully relax, so that makes it harder, especially with the saddle on there. He's not relaxed enough to give his head fully all the way around, which is a pretty good sign that I shouldn't have been getting ready to get on him like I am right here. This is day 7. I've had this horse now for 7 days. And part of me just wanted to be able to say, I had a saddle on him and I swung a leg over on him within 1 week of getting him. And that was the wrong thing to do. I don't know why. But I just thought, that'll be cool. And he was giving me a lot of indications that that might be okay, that he was going to be okay with it. So far with the saddle on, he had not had any issues, except for when he went from a trot to a lope. So I'm just giving him some time to be able to relax, to realize that it's not that bad. Me getting down lower than him seemed to be really effective at him for getting him to lower his head and relax. But he does not do it in this case with the saddle on him. He just can't relax. In fact, he's almost zoned out. He's blocking it out. Now I have his attention back. He's just very rigid, very worried, tolerating but not accepting yet. I'm trying to see if he'll at least relax a little bit because I want to get up in the saddle. Take up a little bit more slack from the cinch. I don't want it to wind up underneath him when I go to put some weight on it. So I'm learning here. He is kind of locked up. And for him, when he goes from locked up to not locked up, you're going to see how he makes that transition. I know I'm going to get on him on the left side, so I start out by putting some pressure on the right side, partly to get the saddle pulled to that side so that when I get up on from the other side, I have the saddle pulled back to straight, and also to get my stirrup kind of turned around to that side so that I can get my foot in the stirrup a little quicker. He's starting to move his head and move his front feet a little bit. He's taking my full weight there for almost the first time. I'm being pretty cautious there because he blows up. I want him to be able to just bounce out of that stirrup and, not wind up being drug around the arena. So here I'm going to try and put some weight in the saddle and hold him. Start getting ready to swing my leg up over, let him feel my knee on his backside in case I am sloppy getting on or off at some point. He's got to get used to that. Bending his neck around so that I have an option if he starts to take off. And I figure he's doing good here. He's doing good. He's giving no indication he wants to bolt or anything at this point. Now what I should have done here, I gave him a break, gave him a rest. What I should have done probably is moved him out one more time, taken him from a walk to a trot to a lope, and then back down and given him a minute to kind of move his feet. Because here we go. He's just in a halter. And I'm thinking, okay, I have a night latch on the saddle. I'm thinking, get your foot in the stirrup. And then I back out. And he did good. So I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to get around him, get my foot in the stirrup, get that night latch in case something bad happens, and just sit on him for 10 or 20 seconds and then get back off again. I get my foot in the stirrup and I don't reach for the night latch. What happens is, you can't see, he rips my stirrup hair off the saddle, and I have no option. We're gonna see how long it takes him to
bail.
put his foot on those. Haven't done this yet, haven't tried it. I just threw him down there and he's grazing next to him because I ground hitched him. Didn't teach him that, he just ground hitches. Pretty good. One of the things that we're struggling with is he's not sure when I'm trying to get him to be brave and hold still and take some pressure, and when I want him to move. And maybe I need to be better at changing my intention. I want you to move versus I want you to hold still, and maybe he needs to figure out which one is which. This time I want him to move. Come on. Make it something a little bit harder for him to evade. You can't just manipulate the length on the rope. And then we'll reduce it down. time I'm setting them up to hit it dead center. Now I want him to stop on it. Boy. Boy. See this licking and chewing with his mouth. He just did it, and he's relaxed doing it. That's what I wanted to see. There's nothing to stop him from getting off there. He's got no pressure. He's still not comfortable with it. You can be like, he's like, usually when he walks away from me, I'm supposed to hold still, but I don't like this footing. Good boy. Take that as a win. All right, as you can see, we've got a saddle on him. He's doing really good through that. He's over there eating and relaxed with the saddle on. We're gonna up the ante. So when he bolted on me and got me off yesterday, we just had moved a little bit too fast. I'm gonna find out what things trigger him and trigger him to buck. And we're gonna do that by putting some real pressure on him when the saddle's on him. I'm gonna put that little tarp that bugs him on the saddle and then get him moving, and he's gonna hear that and see that behind him. We're gonna see if he can stay calm through something moving around and make a noise on his back. Because if he can't, I don't wanna get back on him. Wise. Trying to get him where you can definitely see him. Scary. I thought that went pretty good, and here's why. He was scared and he was running, but as you saw, he still listened to me for input. As soon as he could calm down, about 5 seconds in, I was able to stop him, turn him. He didn't completely lose his mind, or you'd have seen him go right through or over this fence. He's capable of doing that. He was scared, and it didn't. So my goal is, I don't want him to get to the panic stage before he looks to me to trust me. I want that to happen sooner. So we're going to do it again. Hopefully it's a little bit smoother this time, and hopefully he makes a better decision quicker to just, yeah, it's scary, but if I go over and trust him, then it's going to be okay. And that's where I'll find comfort and peace. See him licking and chewing? He's still nervous, but he's able to calm himself down. That thing's still on his back. It still worries him. I'm making sure I don't get directly in his path in case the wind comes up and sends him out again. Scary, ain't it? Let's send him out again. Now, I like that. You couldn't see it. He's terrified, but what he did this time is he stopped. If that horse gets wadded up in barbed wire, that's what I want him to do. Let me move him around a little bit so you can see him. I want a horse that when he gets scared, when he gets wadded up in something that scares him, I would much rather have him wait for me to come help him than just bolt and blow. That's what gets him into trouble. That's why he's called Lambo. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, good boy. Good boy. See, he's starting to see me as his option for relief. Every time it moves, it makes him nervous. And he almost goes into that panic, but he's not hitting it right now. He's a very smart horse, but he's also very Mustang. He lived the first 2 years of his life where everything was trying to kill him, and it doesn't pay for him to trust anything because everything was trying to kill him out there. And for him to learn to trust something other than his mom, maybe some of the other members of his herd, is just a different thing for him, especially when the thing asking for trust is a predator with eyes on the front of his head. So that's a big thing there. I like the way he's reacting. Let's send him around again and see if he can even stay a little bit calmer moving with that scary thing. I want him to learn that he can do hard things and they're not going to hurt him if he'll just trust me. Good boy. I want him to just walk nice and calm for a minute. You'll notice when he comes around here, that his head is fairly low. He's not like up and blowing out. It takes very little for me to just keep him moving. I want him to show that even when he's nervous, he can stay calm and go slow. But I'm also going to move him out fast again here, because that's when he tends to, when he's already in flight mode, that's when that thing's going to bother him the most. So let's send him out here as soon as he gets around where you can see him again. First, I want to reward him for being so good and calm. That thing's wanting to turn him. I'm not going to let him just yet. Now we'll let him turn. That'll tend to keep him off the fence if he panics anyway, because it's on that side. He's going to want to come to the inside. Let's get him into a lope. There you go, good boy. Good boy, good boy. Good boy. Watch how he brakes himself. He rates his own speed. Boy. Good boy. That thing's scary, ain't it? That thing's scary. We're going to give him a break. He's doing good. See, if I'd have done that yesterday, before I climbed up on him, we probably wouldn't have had me in the dirt. I hadn't pushed him hard enough with the saddle on. I had taken him up to a lope when he bucked the first time he hit a lope, and then I'd taken him to a lope a couple of times where he didn't buck, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not planning on loping him today anyway, if that's his threshold. But yesterday, his threshold was me getting my leg over the saddle, and he took my stirrup off, and there was no option for me to stay in the saddle. Well, I wussed out and climbed off on the fence. You seen the video, I took that option. I saw that I was at the fence and I thought he's gonna rub my leg off on this fence, so I dove for the fence. Makes me mad because that's the last thing you want to have happen on the first ride, is have him successfully get you off by bucking, because then that becomes a pretty good option if you don't want to ride, is I know if I buck, he gets off. So now what I have to do is get him ready so that the next time, hopefully there's not a next time when that happens, but I got to be prepared so that when that happens next time, I'm in the saddle when he figures out that didn't work, let me find another solution. I'm hoping to get him, like I said, to where that isn't an option for him, because he trusts me and he knows that even when it gets stressful, I'm where he gets peace. I'm the one that's going to give him release. Every time he does what I ask, I always try to set him up so he can be successful, and I always try to set it up to where the easiest thing for him is to do what I ask. So let's give him a break here. I like the other thing that we've done here is now he's, with that thing off of him, the saddle is now really comfortable. Before, having the saddle on was a huge amount of stress. When you ratchet it down from a 9 to a 5, what was a 9, the saddle was a 9. Now the tarp was a 9. Now the saddle's a 5. And we'll get him to where that saddle's a 0, like if he was standing in the field eventually.